Clara Long joins us now. She's the acting deputy Washington director for Human Rights Watch. Clara, thanks so much for being with us. If you could start by telling us what your organization actually knows about these raids. Have you confirmed any reports of people actually being rounded up by ICE this weekend?
We don't have any confirmed reports at the moment. That doesn't mean that that there aren't arrests occurring. These things are being tracked, I know, by people across the country. And, one of the things that the raids do, besides the threat of besides sort of the reality of the arrest, is the threat of arrest. That has huge repercussions on communities, regardless of whether arrests occur and how many arrests occur as well.
I want to talk about that in a moment. But first, Sunday on Face the Nation, the acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, Mark Morgan, said these raids are targeting criminals. Let's listen.
The individuals that ICE goes after, and they do this every single day, are not individuals that are here undocumented. They're individuals that are here illegally. And in this case, their priority has always been, and it will be, to go after those that are criminal aliens, meaning those people that are here illegally and have committed additional crimes against American citizens.
So what do we know about who these raids are actually targeting and who is being affected?
What we've heard previously from government officials is that these raids are targeting people who entered recently and who received in absentia deportation orders in immigration courts. That means that a judge ordered them deported when they did not show up to court hearings. Now, there are a lot of reasons why that can happen, many of them related to a crisis in due process in the immigration court system. The U.S., I'm a human rights lawyer. The U.S., under human rights law, does have the authority to do deportations, to effectuate deportations, where someone has been given a fair chance to tell their story. But what's really concerning about these arrests and the people being targeted, these recent border crossers who have been rushed through immigration proceedings, is that they have not had a fair shake.
So I want to elaborate on that. You tweeted that the people who are being targeted in these raids have been, quote, churned through a machine designed to generate deportation orders. Can you explain that court system that you were referring to and how it treats asylum claims, for instance?
Sure. One of the things the Trump administration has done is create what it's called a rocket docket. That means that a number of, especially families who have entered the country recently, are being placed onto a special immigration court docket where judges are given the obligation to complete cases within 1 year. So this is very quick for these proceedings. And the practices around that docket have meant that people have not been able to, say, necessarily receive notice in the mail about when their court hearing and where their court hearing is. They haven't had time necessarily to try to get an attorney. There's a huge lack of immigration attorneys to take these cases, and they're basically in a system that is moving too quickly for them to really have a fair shot at making a claim.
So Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot told people to make sure their friends and neighbors know their rights. What rights do undocumented immigrants have when faced with ICE agents? Because I think some people who may not be familiar with this might say, well, they're not American citizens. So when you talk about rights for undocumented immigrants, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, constitutional rights apply to everyone in the United States. And so immigrants have the right to remain silent, have the right to, their houses are not subject to search unless they give permission to immigration agents or police to enter, or unless those agents have a warrant. So in most of these cases, the agents will come without a warrant. They won't have a warrant. Everyone has a right not to open the door. They should ask for ID. If people show ID, they should look at that ID through the window. There's a lot of risks associated not just with who's being targeted in these raids, but about anyone else who's in the vicinity, who ICE has been very clear will also be subject to arrest. So that could mean I've seen even people who are actually U.S. citizens being swept up into this system and deported.
Well, can people record or photograph these arrests?
Yes, they can record and photograph them, and you know, that can have protective qualities as well.
And you mentioned this off the top, but what are some of those repercussions that you talked about of just the threat of raids when it comes to undocumented people?
Well, you know, as Trump administration officials have said, their goal is to make immigrants in the United States feel like they're always looking over their shoulder. And that has real impacts on communities, not just on immigrants, but on U.S. citizens, including U.S. citizens who are related to people who don't have status. So that means people being too afraid to send their kids to school, or to go to the doctor if they get sick, or to go to the police, even to report crimes against others. You know, these have real public safety, education, health impacts, just the discussion that's happening now, the level of fear in the country.
All right, we're going to continue to watch the situation closely. Clara Long. Clara, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.